How's it going, everyone? This is Jeff from YoND, and for the off week, we have my father, Frank Gillis, Notre Dame, class of '67. How you doing today?
So far, so good, son.
We we wanted to get you on camera just to kind of relive your experience with the Irish. Dad, you're at that age where you get called upon to relive the glory days of Notre Dame football. So let's just start. Where did your love from Notre Dame come? Did you have that before you went to the university? Where did it originate from?
Oh, my father, your grandfather, as you know, he went there, played football there. He was in the class of 42. His brother, my Uncle Rod, went there also.
Yeah, and he played football under Elmer Layton.
Yeah.
And one of these days we're going to have the letter. We actually have his scholarship offer on there. So when was your first Notre Dame game?
November of '62 at home against Pitt, which Notre Dame won. Darryl LaMonica threw, I believe, 4 touchdown passes that game.
And who'd you go with?
My dad and my brother Joe.
Were you already accepted to Notre Dame at that point?
No.
Did you know that's where you were going to go?
Yeah.
Did you apply anywhere else?
A couple other schools, yeah, Oklahoma State being one of them.
Why?
Well, they had a fire protection bachelor program that I was interested in. They were one of the few schools that offered it.
Did Notre Dame offer it?
No, my God, no. That's not a real academic.
So despite Oklahoma State having what you wanted, you still elected to go to Notre Dame?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Just because you were predisposed to the Irish?
Yeah. Plus, I liked it there, brought up on it, just like you guys are.
Did your father pressure you at all to go?
No. He wanted me to go be a blacksmith.
Okay.
No, there was no pressure.
No
the pressure was on him to pay for it.
Yeah. So take me through that then. So you get into Notre Dame your senior year in high school at Bishop McDevitt in Harrisburg, PA. It's 1963. You're going out to Notre Dame. Hugh DeVore was about to enter his second season.
No, first.
Oh, really?
Oh, well, no,
63 was his second.
Yeah.
62 was one.
Right.
And so your freshman year, just take me through the football season. I mean, did you go to all the games? What was the mood then? Because
the one of my classmates from high school, Larry Conjar, was going there on football scholarship.
Sure.
And there was 2 other guys from my class also. So there was 4 of us from my senior class at McDevitt who entered Notre Dame in September.
Larry being the only one that played football.
Yeah, he's the only football player. Yeah. But Notre Dame, probably 4 or 5 years prior to that, had just been a succession of failed seasons under Joe Kuharich.
Right.
And of course he was let go in I guess December of '62.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, they reached out and got Hugh DeVore. I don't know if DeVore had been on. I think he had been on Kuharich's staff.
Right. I think so too.
I believe he had. So they made him interim coach. And
for '62 interim coach.
No, '63.
Okay.
'63. Yeah. In other words, he I think he'd been on Kuharich's staff for a few years, but then he was elevated off the staff to step in for Kuharich for the '63 season because I think it was too late for Notre Dame to make a move in '63 to fill the job at a permanent selection. So I didn't know what to expect. I mean, the first game was against Wisconsin, at the first home game, and which was the first game of the season. But that was a good Wisconsin team who had won the Big Ten the previous year and went to the Rose Bowl and lost in really dramatic fashion to a great UCLA team in the January '63 Rose Bowl. It was a hell of a game. But they had the as I recall, the key components of their team back. I think their quarterback was named Ron Vanderkellen. He was back. They had a guy named Lou Holland, who was a tailback, and Gene Washington, a tight end. Those are the players I remember. It was a tight game. Wisconsin won. And then I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the following week who we played, but anyhow, we played USC and UCLA, both of them at home that year, and beat them. That's the only
2 wins.
Won.
Yeah, because they went 2-7. Did you go to all the home games?
Yeah, all home games. Yeah, all 5 of them.
Can you share? So I know for our viewers, you lived at the Firehouse in Frank Leahy's old room.
Not freshman year.
Okay, I was going to say. So where'd you live at your freshman year?
Stanford Hall.
Okay, and then thereafter, were you at the firehouse?
Yeah, I spent the first semester of my sophomore year at Marcy Hall because the guy who was supposed to graduate, whose room I was going to take at the firehouse, didn't graduate.
Okay.
I mean, he stayed the first semester. So yeah, but from then on, but um, all freshmen had to live in the dorm. So I mean, I could not have lived in the firehouse my
Gotcha.
freshman year anyway.
So I want you to tell me. I know when we went out to the Cal game last year, you were showing us around and everything, and you brought up a story from when Kennedy got shot in '63, and you were in a class.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
share that story real
Well,
quick.
it's coming up. It'll be the 60th anniversary of it here
It's crazy.
next month. You know.
Yeah.
And but it was a Friday afternoon. I had a geology lab, and I mean, I had to take a science, as part of the freshman curriculum. So I took geology, which was pretty cool. But we had a professor named Dr. McAlpin, Archie McAlpin, who was a Scottish guy. He was a pretty good guy. But we had geology lab on Friday afternoon for like 2 hours. So, you have a group of guys who are sitting at a lab table, and so in the middle of the class, Dr. McAlpin comes in and just says to everybody, hey, we just received news
Just received news.
that the president's been shot. So one of the guys on my lab team there, sitting at the table with a football player, I won't.
Yeah. You don't even mention his name.
But his reaction was, why would somebody want to shoot Hesburgh? He's just a president of a college.
that is funny. So 63 passes. Obviously, they hire Ara Parseghian away from Northwestern. You're getting ready to start 1964. And actually, before I go to that, we're used to the game days. As you know, my first Notre Dame game in person was the '88 Miami game. So every Notre Dame experience I have live is just a carnival-like atmosphere. There's a million people there. What was it like in '63? In DeVore's last year? I mean, were they selling out any games? Like, was USC a sellout or?
Yeah, I think it was a lot more crowded than a high school game. Obviously, it all looked like a sellout to me. But those were the days still, Jeff, when men went to the games in a suit and tie
Right.
and an overcoat, and wore a hat. I mean, that was still, there was some kind of a dress code, if you will. People got dressed up to go to a football game.
Sure.
And the stadium was, the 58,075, the official
59,075.
Yeah. And no changes have been made in that. It was and of course, the big part of the weekend was a Friday night pep rally.
Sure.
And which has since been discontinued, but that's another story. But they had them in the old field house, which was also the home basketball court, and that was just literally a big barn of a building with a dirt floor.
Is that building that's still there, right?
No,
it's not.
Been torn down.
Okay.
Yeah. But that was a big deal. The band used to march from dorm to dorm, and the students would come out and follow the band around the campus until they went in the field house. And they had big sliding doors. It was almost like a livestock.
Yeah. Right.
event.
Right.
That's
Right.
what it was. And of course it was all males then. There was no women in the school. And it was Notre Dame then was as somebody had mentioned to me just recently, it was essentially like a finishing school for Catholic boys. I mean, that's
Right.
what it was. It really wasn't the academically prestigious or elite to the extent that they are prestigious and elite academically right now. It wasn't that school. It was a football school. In my freshman year, the library opened. When Father Hesburgh came, he preached and he believed and he practiced and he implemented academic excellence. And he said the hallmark of an academically excellent university is an excellent library. And so he had the library built. It opened in September of '63.
Well, I heard rumors them swaying Frank Gillis away from Oklahoma State helped turn the tides of their academic
It could have been.
excellence.
I think a lot of big money followed me.
I don't think that's a coincidence. I'm just saying.
Oklahoma oil.
Just saying.
Yeah,
I'm just saying. But
that could be.
so was there a student section? Did the students all go to the game? I mean, was
Yeah,
there?
it was student section. It was
How many students?
there was probably, well, it's roughly about what it is now.
It's like 9,000, 8,000.
Well, I'm going to say 8,000 and change, 8,500 maybe. The student, I think the student numbers stayed about the same.
It's amazing that it's, kept pretty steady or within 1,000 for that long.
Yeah, it has. I mean, it's been pretty consistent with that.
Meanwhile, the campus has just grown tenfold since.
God, it's insane.
Yeah. So 64, back to where we were, 64 comes along. They hire Era away. I don't think Era ever lost to Notre Dame at Northwestern. He beat them like 5 years in a row.
I think that's right, yeah.
And obviously had a level of success at Northwestern you don't see too often. So Era comes in. Obviously, that's got to turn up the excitement a little bit, knowing that you're bringing.
Well, the big deal, Jeff, was that, I think I'm correct on this, but Era was the first non-Notre Dame graduate to be head coach. I think that's correct. I'm not sure. Did
that ruffle feathers?
Well, it caused some among some of the old line alums. I think it did. Like any time there's a big change. I mean, it kind of reminds me of the way I react to some of these things now. At my age, that you see some of the changes there, and the way you've seen among Notre Dame fans, during the Kelly era, when artificial surface,
the scoreboard and the
jumbotron, all of which I think were positive changes. But that they weren't without some level of controversy when that was done. And Era was not a Catholic, and that's the other thing. Of course, I don't think Rockney was a Catholic initially.
Right.
At some point, he converted, I believe. But in any event, but there was a lot of excitement. He was regarded, as I recall, as a hot young coach, and a successful coach at Northwestern. Certainly a strong academic institution, and I think the thinking was, he succeeded at an academic institution that Notre Dame aspired to be, which they weren't at that point. And he certainly succeeded against Notre Dame. And he brought with him a good staff. I mean, Paul Schultz and John Ray. And I think Doc Martin was another guy. He had several. I think Era was his own offensive coordinator. I'm not sure he had an offensive coordinator. I could be way off base with some of that, but Johnny Ray was defensive coordinator. He had been the head coach at John Carroll University in Cleveland and very successful there. And he came and really they got things turned around. It used to be when I was a freshman, you could go over and watch practice any day over at Cartier Field, and it was no big deal. And I used to go over to watch Larry Conjar and see how he was doing. But you noticed the players. I mean, I specifically remember John Hewart there. My freshman year, which would have been his junior year, he was like I don't know, fourth or fifth string quarterback. I mean, he was he was nobody. Nothing special. And there was a lot of guys like him. And the one thing Era did, I mean, he knew how to use his personnel. He identified people and put them in the right spots.
Well, was Jim Seymour much of a weapon in '63, or did he also come out of his?
He wasn't there. He came in '64, 66. He was a freshman, I think, in '65. Freshman.
Okay, and they still had the freshman team for football, correct?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, I don't think that changed till the late '60s, early '70s. I could be wrong about that.
I think it changed when the freshmen were eligible to play varsity.
Right.
Whenever that was, which would have been, I don't know, 69, 70, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So 64 comes along. Obviously, Notre Dame goes 9-1, and if we counted national titles like other schools, Alabama and Michigan, with all the made-up and mythical titles, that would be a national title. So you went to all the home games in '64?
Yes. Yeah, I went to all the home games. All 4 years I was there.
All 4 years you were there. So they go 9-1. They had such a successful year, and it was out of nowhere. Obviously, I'd hate to just focus on the one loss, which was USC at the end of the year. But do you remember that game at all? Do you remember where were you?
Oh, I was home. It was Thanksgiving.
Okay, so you were back in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And had to watch that on.
Yeah, watching that on TV with my dad. And
how did he take it?
He as he was wont to do to disappointments in his life. Not well. Not well.
So 64, 9-1. 65, obviously some high hopes there, although they lost Hewart and they end up going 7-2-1. Is there anything in the 65 season that sticks out to you in particular?
Well, I can back up one
Yeah, go
just
ahead.
to the 64 season on the way back to school. And a group of us, including Larry, drove together. I forget who the guy was who had the car. But anyhow, we stopped at a service plaza there in the turnpike to get gas. And there was some students from, they had Antioch College sweatshirts on.
Okay.
Antioch College.
Yeah.
So they started giving us some shit about losing to Southern Cal the day before.
Yeah.
So that ended quick with Larry.
Yeah, I'm sure.
No blows were exchanged. No.
But while we're talking about the turnpike, can you walk us through your story coming out of that tunnel?
Okay. Well, that's my senior year, but
So-
that's the end of my junior year actually.
You were coming home for summer at the end.
Coming home from summer at the end of my junior year, I was coming home with a guy, a friend of mine who was a senior, who would be graduating in a couple of weeks. His parents just got him a new car. It was a Volkswagen Beetle.
Brand new.
Brand new, yeah, brand new. And and at that time, the tunnel was 2 lanes.
Right.
There was only
One
tube.
tunnel, 2 lanes in it, one going east, the other going west.
The other tube, which is now the westbound tube, was under construction. So it was a major construction area. So when you go through the Allegheny Tunnel, headed east, at the east end of the tunnel, the mouth of the tunnel at the east end, it takes a sharp turn to the left. And so I was driving at this point, and we had a case of beer in the back, although nobody was drinking yet. But
You're waiting to get through the tunnels.
we're getting down at the mouth of the tunnel, and a truck's coming the other way going westbound, and he was over on my side a little bit, probably on the double line,
Trying to line it up.
Yeah. So I overcompensated to the right a little bit, and back to the left, right at the mouth of the tunnel, and in doing so, flipped the car over. We rolled over a couple times on the roof of the car, landed on its roof in the infield, which was a construction zone.
Right.
So my luggage, which was in the back up against the back window, that popped out. The back window popped out in total. It didn't break. The front window just crumbled. I mean, the roof of the car, the front of the car
just caved.
Like that.
Yeah.
And the car was the left rear fender was bent in. It didn't puncture the tire, the left rear tire. So we got out of the car. I mean, I remember the car rolling over, and my man Harry, who owned the car, said, "Jesus Christ, Gillis!" But it was dust and cinders flying over, and people stopping, other motors coming. And we just waved them on. No, we're fine. Everything, it's all good. It's cool. So the guy at that time, there were guys assigned to work at the tunnel.
Right.
Tunnel. And the guy from the tunnel came down. He said, we were gathering our luggage up off the street, and we got the jack out of the car and jacked it up and bent out the left rear fender so the wheel would turn. And we flipped the car over.
How?
The 3 of us did.
Yeah.
Yeah, believe it or not. Yeah. The 3 of us did. And it sat upright, and Harry turned the ignition on, and it ran. It was fun. I mean, it was, just a basic Volkswagen Beetle. So, we piled all the stuff into the car, and Harry got in, and I took the rear windshield and held it up in front of him as a windshield, because it was cold up in those mountains, and this was in May. It was cold, and the guy at the tunnel says, "Hey, if you guys, you're okay to drive." He said, "Don't say anything to anybody. Don't tell them where this happened." He said, "I'll get fired." If I didn't, because he didn't call the cops. So then we stopped on the way home to get gas at the Midway Service Plaza, and we pulled it in there. I mean, the car was totaled, but the guys are looking at it. So how the hell did you get this thing on the turnpike? How did they let you on? Yeah, that was. But nobody was injured. It was interesting. Yeah,
that's funny. So
it is.
64 9-1, 65 7-2-1, 66 rolls along.
Yeah.
It's kind of the perfect storm, and it's really, I realize Alabama, I think, claims that title, but
Yeah.
at that point, the SEC was like the Big East a few years ago, so no one really took them serious, and it was basically just Notre Dame and Michigan State. I mean, everyone kind of knew that was coming, and Notre Dame took care of some big time opponents, Purdue in particular that year with Bob Greasy, and the next year they went to the Rose Bowl and beat USC. Purdue did in '67, so there was definitely some teams. Oklahoma, I think you guys beat like 51-0 that year.
I remember an Oklahoma player,
or 40-0, something like that.
Said, I remember this quote from the paper. He said, when Notre Dame came in, they looked like the Green Bay Packers getting off the bus.
Yeah,
that was Notre Dame was just that superior. I mean, there's no question about it. Well, go back. '65 was kind of a ho-hum season. I think Bill's Locke was our quarterback, and we had lost a lot of guys through graduation. And it was more or less back to reality, but we had a winning season. Of course, at that time Notre Dame didn't go to bowl games, so because the 64 team obviously would have been a bowl team, as would the 65 team have been a bowl team.
So take me along to the build-up for '66 to the Michigan State game. Obviously, that's the game that everyone had circled, and you guys roll in there undefeated. Notre Dame does what they were. 8-0, yeah, because they played USC the following week out in LA after Michigan State. Now you went to East Lansing for that game.
Right.
How'd you get tickets? Number one.
Well, I don't know. The guy, a classmate of mine, I won't go into names now. His father was the mayor of a small town up in Michigan, probably about an hour and a half or so north of South Bend. He got the tickets. His dad did. So we went to his house Friday afternoon and had dinner and stuff, and then went over to campus at East Lansing.
On Friday?
On Friday night, yeah. And then went to several bars. We went to our freshman team played their freshman team at East Lansing High School that Friday.
On a Friday, right?
We went to that game. Although I do forget who won. I think it was a tight game. Something tells me Michigan State might have won that game. I forget now. But that was a good game. And then we went back to his house and we stayed overnight and then went to the game.
This was your first time at a Michigan State game?
Away, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean, right? In East Lansing.
And the weather was raw. I mean, it was okay, but here it is November, and it's what you expect in Michigan.
So what was that atmosphere like?
Oh, that was something. I mean, it was, that was billed as the game of the century. Probably the first one where that moniker was attached, and I think ABC did the game televised. I'm not sure, but it did for the time. November '66. It really generated a lot of hype.
Right.
It really did, and which was why the outcome of a 10-10 tie was so controversial. But I remember the team went to East Lansing by train from South Bend. And
Nick Eddy,
and the story's been told. Nick, who was our starting tailback, who incidentally lived next door to me in Morris when I lived in Marcy Hall, but first semester of my sophomore year. But he evidently had a new pair of wingtip shoes on, with slippery soles, and he slipped getting off the train, going down the steps of the train, and hurt his shoulder, and he couldn't play.
And then Hanratty was out as
well.
Yeah, Coley O'Brien started.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people, whenever you just basically hear the disappointment of the 10-10 tie, but not a lot of people, they fail to realize you had a backup tailback and a backup quarterback.
And of course, the Bob Gladger, the backup tailback, scored the touchdown for us. But and the other thing is, both teams were just loaded with NFL talent.
Oh yeah, Bubba Smith, and Gene Washington. Stacked. Michigan State was stacked.
Yeah, you go down there, Michigan State's roster. It was loaded with guys. Bubba Smith, my God, it was big on big. It absolutely was, and in a way, it's fitting. And in the era, caught hell in some circles and for kicking the field goal. But, there was over 4 minutes left in that game at that time.
Right, and they were down 10-0
yeah.
instantly, and you're with a backup quarterback versus the Michigan State defense.
Who was a diabetic and who was having some energy problems there. They had to get him off the field and and get him squared away, get him something to eat. Yeah, that was the other thing. So it was it was a battle. It was a battle.
What was your feeling leaving that game?
I was disappointed, because the thing is, Jeff, there was no bowl game. See, so had we beat Michigan State, and assuming we would beat Southern Cal next week, which we obviously did, hung 50 something on them.
Yeah, I think that was the 51-0.
Yeah,
and they were number 10 in the country.
Yeah, they were also a good team, and it it left little margin for error for us to claim a national championship legitimately. Uh, but on reflection, when you look at it, I mean, both teams were superpowers, and it was just a knockdown, drag out, heavy.
Yeah, it was
battle.
heavy on heavy.
It absolutely was,
for sure. Coach McKay was at USC, right? Yeah, it was. Who was USC's coach then?
I think it was McKay.
Yeah, it was McKay.
It was. Yeah.
I
get him and Robinson mixed up. John Robinson.
It was definitely McKay. One of my favorite lines ever after Notre Dame went out to the Coliseum the week after the Michigan State tie and beat USC, number 10 ranked USC 51-0. A reporter asked him, I don't know if it was on the field or pregame, said, "Hey, Coach McKay, what did you tell the guys in the locker room after the game?" And he said, "Get a shower if you need one." And I just thought that was a great line. Just kind of an asshole line, really. I mean, but it was to the point, and it was great. Get a shower if you need one. So, not to get too far in depth here, the Vietnam War is raging on at this point. Did you know that you were going over there? What was your plan? First off, if you got into grad school, did you have to go?
Oh no, there was no deferment for grad school.
Okay, so your time was up.
I was going to be drafted.
So that's got to be. I can't even imagine having that dark cloud hanging over.
Well, I mean, you look back at my father's generation, World War II. There was no deferments then. My dad was drafted out of Notre Dame in the spring of his junior year.
So you elected to join the Marine Corps as opposed to being drafted, correct?
Right. Well, I was officially drafted in the summer of '65, the summer between my sophomore and junior year. I don't know how, but I was. So
the summer between your junior and senior year.
No, the sophomore and junior year.
Summer. So you were drafted summer of '65. Yeah, I got you.
I received an induction notice in error. I mean, I clearly was I was a student,
full-time student, right?
Full-time student in good standing at a recognized college, and so. I certainly appealed that, and the draft board gave me what they call a 1SC classification, which I don't know what that was, but what it meant was, as soon as I graduated, I was gone.
So you knew.
So I knew that, yeah. Which that was pretty much going to be the story anyway.
So you enlisted on your own then,
yeah,
correct? Just so you could pick where you were going,
right.
And you chose the Marines,
right?
Why?
Well, my mom's younger brother was a Marine. He served on Iwo Jima and Guam, and I just liked the Marine Corps. I don't know, just like.
Yeah.
And that's why.
So you have that hanging over your head. You graduate in '66. How long after graduation? 67. Excuse me. I had 66 football season, so 67. How long after you graduated were you going and doing your duties for the country?
I went in the fall of '67.
Okay.
Yeah.
To where? Where'd you start?
Parris Island. In boot camp, Parris Island. Everybody who enlisted in the Marine Corps at that time, probably still is the case. If you're from east of the Mississippi River, you go to Parris Island. If you're from west of the Mississippi, you go to San Diego for boot camp. We refer to them as Hollywood Marines. But that's, I think, the way it still is with boot camp. And from there you go after boot camp, which when I went through, it was 12 weeks, I think. And then you went to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina for infantry training for another probably 6 weeks or so, 7 weeks. And then home on leave, and then wherever you were going. In my case, I was assigned to the artillery, so I had to go to artillery school at Camp Pendleton, California. Mm-hmm. And from there, you go to staging battalion. At that time, was every Marine going to Vietnam had to go to staging battalion for 2 weeks, which is where they get everybody caught up on their last minute shots or dental work or stuff like that. You fill out a last will and testament that makes sure all your paperwork's squared away for beneficiaries and things like that. And then you're off to Vietnam.
You're starting.
Yeah.
So had Vietnam not been a thing, what would you have done? Would you have gone to a grad school? Would you have gone to law
Yeah,
school?
well, I was going to go to
What
law
was your
school.
undergrad degree in?
History.
History. And what was your intention with that?
I was going to go to law school at Pitt. I was accepted at Pitt Law School, but I knew I couldn't go. I had to go to the military.
Was that a thought of yours to do after Vietnam?
No, actually, after Vietnam, I wanted to go in the Chicago Fire Department because living in the firehouse at Notre Dame, I spent a fair amount of time at a particular firehouse engine company in Chicago, Engine 61.
In the south side of Chicago.
Yeah, and that was through our fire chief was Brother Braun
Mm-hmm.
Mayo, and he had connections there. In fact, Brother was the superintendent of utilities for the university. He ran the power plant. And he has, if
I remember him.
If you're out at Notre Dame and go into the main building on the first floor of the administration building at Notre Dame, they have bronze plaques up for memorializing all of the, I guess, memorable or major figures from the community, from the Holy Cross Order over the decades. And Brother's got his picture there, and he's among that group.
He's there forever.
Yep.
Give me some good Notre Dame fire department stories. It's not often that you meet someone who is a student living at the firehouse of a university, driving the fire trucks, actually going and fighting the fire. Give me a good little anecdote from NDFD.
The fire department now at Notre Dame is a full-time career department. There's no more students
Right.
involved.
When did that change?
It changed gradually over time, but I think they became probably 15 years ago. They became
Paid.
a full-time career department. They had students living there, 2 or 3 or 4 sometimes, pretty much regularly up until about 20 years ago, as I can recall. But no, my first night, I was in the volunteer fire company at home, and it was just a small rural company, and I joined that when I was 15. And mainly because they needed people, particularly during the day. Men were away working, and if a call came in, myself and a couple of other younger guys, 15, 16-year-olds, would respond. Now, that's how I got interested in it. And I knew Notre Dame had a firehouse. I had no idea what the operation was or how it worked or anything. My first night on campus as a freshman, I walked, because Stanford Hall is almost adjacent to the firehouse. Mm-hmm. And I walked over to the firehouse, and there's Brother Barmayo, a couple of the brothers, the Holy Cross brothers, sitting out front. And so, we got to talking and everything like that. So I started hanging out there a lot of times in the wintertime, because, South Bend's desolate in the wintertime. And in January, my freshman year, I would go over there and like on a Saturday afternoon or something. And Brother Barmayo had an extensive collection of fire publications, magazines, and stuff going back years. But the fire department was operated by, I think we had 7 Holy Cross brothers who lived there. Now, they all worked either at the power plant or at the Ave Maria Press, those 2 places where they worked. And one of the brothers, I think it was Brother Conan, he ran the bookstore. He lived there for a while. Yeah.
How things have changed there.
Oh God! But it was, and we had a priest who lived there too, Holy Cross priest, Father Putz, who was a theology professor. He was an Austrian priest, a brilliant theologian, evidently. So that's who operated the fire department, and we had 2 pieces of apparatus, like a 1955 or something Persh engine, which is really a first-class piece of equipment for that time, and another ladder truck. But mostly we ran the Persh. Now, we only had, during the school year, the 9-month school year, we probably only had 100 or so fire calls. I mean, it wasn't like it was real busy.
Did you guys, so are those calls all on campus? Was that like your jurisdiction, if you will, your boundaries?
Notre Dame and St. Mary's.
Okay.
And also the off-campus areas at Notre Dame, the university owned extensive acreage, including some farm buildings and stuff like that still at that time in the 60s.
So if there was a fire that got out of control, say in like South Bend or Mishawaka or something, they weren't calling on you
No,
guys.
they weren't. They didn't call us. No.
You want to tell us about the couch?
Well, yeah.
Tell us about the couch.
Speaking of fires that got out of control, we had senior year. I'm going to say it was after the Duke game, which was a blowout game. Myself and one of the other student firefighters were sitting in the TV room.
Sober.
Huh?
Sober.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah, reasonably. So, but I mean, it was like midnight, maybe 1 o'clock in the morning. All the brothers were in bed, and you know, they had a TV room up there in a big table with all newspapers and stuff. But that's the only place you could watch TV, you know. And Larry and I were up there watching television when the fire phone rang. Now we had a box alarm system on campus. You know, regular street boxes.
You meaning someone just sees something, they go and pull it?
Pull a box.
Yeah.
And when a box alarm was activated, the South Bend Fire Department responded also with us.
Okay.
Which was, you know, necessary. It was a good thing. And they sent like 2 engines and a ladder truck and a chief and stuff. So we had, because, you know, during the day, if there's a fire, you know, the brothers are all at work. The 2 or 3 or 4 students we had living there would be in class. Now, the men from the powerhouse responded because the alarm went off over there. So during the day, for a call, certain guys from the powerhouse came across the street. The firehouse is right across the street, still is today, from the power plant. But this was a fire phone. There was a fire number to call. It wasn't 911. None of that was established yet. And it was a special line to the firehouse. And it rang. So I answered it, and it was somebody reporting a large couch on fire on the main quad in front of the Father Soren statue. So instead of waking everybody up and, you know, rousing the troops out of bed at 1 in the morning, it's a couch fire. So we had a fire department pickup truck, an old red Ford pickup truck. So the other guy with me, Larry, and I said, well, we'll just go take the pickup truck. And we took a couple pump cans called Indian tanks off the engine with us. But we went over, and the couch was there as promised, smoldering. And so we loaded on the back of the pickup truck.
Did you spray it with anything at this point?
No.
Okay.
There wasn't really anything at all.
It wasn't working.
Yeah.
Right.
I was going to bring it back to the firehouse and you know, like in the parking lot there and just hook up. We had a garden hose outside, hook that up and wash it down. That's what So we got it loaded on the truck, and of course, we're going back along St. Mary's Lake. You know, for people familiar with the campus, right across from where the grotto is at St. Mary's Lake. And I'm looking out through the back window of the pickup truck, and the rearview mirror. Larry was riding in the back, and the thing bursts into flames naturally. You know, you get it out in the air.
That oxygen.
It took off, and so he starts beating on the roof of the cab. I look back, so we pulled up. And like right across from the grotto, and I backed the thing down to the lake, and we just dumped it in the lake. That was it.
That was the last you saw
That
of
was
it.
it. That was it. We took off. We went back to the firehouse. That fire was out.
Did you tell anyone about that the next day? That was it. Yeah.
This is the first open admission of that.
Yeah, I think you're good. We've
Statute of limitations.
It has surpassed. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, cool.
So before we wrap it up here, and I appreciate your time with this, just what do you think of the current state of the Notre Dame program compared to, I mean, obviously you've seen it go from how you described it in 1963, your freshman year, to now. I mean, I know change is tough, and even me, my first game was in '88. It was still tough seeing Notre Dame Stadium in '97 get redone, and then now with all the stuff they've done here in the last 5 or 6 years, it looks like a totally different place. And, you know, you go to all the home games, you have season tickets, so you're out there all the time, and you have been. I know they have to do it, but does it excite you? I mean, do you yearn for the days of old?
Yeah, to the extent I yearn for the days of old, Jeff, just because I'd be younger then, you know.
Yeah.
No, I don't have a problem with the changes that were made here in terms of the physical plan changes and stuff. My I don't want to say problem, but my concerns, or maybe I don't know, discussion points relate to just what's going on in general at the university. To be honest with you.
Sure.
And some of this woke stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
And
that's not unique.
no,
to
that's
Notre Dame.
not.
I mean, that's a societal issue.
Absolutely. But I mean, some things that, as the costs keep rising, and of course we all know college football now is all about the money. Period. But Notre Dame, to me, seems to maybe losing sight a little bit of their fan base.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's going to the highest bidder.
Mainly because the ticket prices are crazy right now. But I mean, once again, Notre Dame's not unique in this. I'm just mentioning this. Little things like probably, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, they had on Fridays before home football games, where you could go down into the stadium through the tunnel onto the field, and they had it marked off and take pictures and stuff and be down on the field. I mean, really a great thing for the fans, and it was always crowded. People really appreciated it. It went on like all day on Friday. Well, as of last year, they began charging people for that, $10 a head. I got a problem with that.
Yeah, I do too.
I got a problem. I mean, that was done. That was something that was done for the fans, and they really appreciated it. And then, we've done away with the pep rallies now. Now, I haven't gone to the pep rally in years. I mean, but it's been a fixture. It's been a staple of the Notre Dame football weekend.
Oh, I mean, some of my best memories growing up. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll never forget. We went to the 90 Air Force, and they had them up on stage, and I snuck into the parents section and gave them the media guide, and they signed. I mean, that made my entire weekend. It didn't matter what else happened. That was such a great experience. And now that I have two young ones of my own, I mean, you're breaking the bank going out to a Notre Dame game, and they can't even let you go onto that field and through the tunnel for free. It's crazy.
The pep rally stopped with COVID, which that's understandable, but they never resumed. Now, last year and this year, the first home football weekend, they had what they call
in the quad there,
a rally at the Rockney and on the main quad in front of the Rockney.
Right.
That was it. That's the only thing. And people say, well, the players didn't like to do it. Well, I'm sure it was a pain in the butt to the players going there on Friday evening when they could probably spend a little time with their families and friends who are coming out to see them before they, were bussed over to their hotel. But it really wasn't done for the players. It was done for the fans, and they've just done away with it now.
Yeah, and I feel like it even before COVID that had lost its luster. Even from the years when I was young, I remember the '88 Miami pep rally, and that
wild.
That lit a fire. And I think the players were pretty well engaged and dialed in, and that was part of the process. That was wild. I mean, I've never seen people want blood like that game. So that was crazy, and that did set the tone. I mean, I'm like, man, the pep rally people are getting in people's faces. Yeah, this is crazy.
And it brings us to this season with playing. We finally crossed the threshold and dipped out into the FCS level for competition. To me, it's inexcusable.
I agree.
It's inexcusable. And I don't think it's me sounding like someone my age.
No, it's inexcusable.
I think we've crossed the line. So now it's only USC who can claim the title that they've never played an FCS.
And that's the other thing. You just gave that to them.
We've given that to our biggest rival. And, because and I don't know. I don't know politics. Obviously, I'm not in the inner circle making these decisions, but it just amazes me that they made this decision. But having said that decision being made, they felt the need to do this. My position would now be, well, if you're going to play an FCS school and cut that $1 million check to bring somebody to town, what about the Catholic schools who play FCS football? Yep. What about Holy Cross or Georgetown or Dayton or Duquesne or Villanova? You think they can't use $1 million payday?
Yeah, play one of the Catholic
schools.
Play
one of them.
Or someone local.
Yeah. What are we doing playing Tennessee State? We have no connection with Tennessee State.
I mean, there's an Ohio State connection now. That's it. I mean, the Eddie George and all the Ohio State. But no,
that's off the wall.
They shouldn't be playing anyone.
No,
on that level.
My God, there's 133 FBS schools now. You can't find a cupcake in that mix.
No, absolutely.
Of course you can. They're there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And next week and next year is going to be more. But yeah, that's what concerns me. now. I mean, but there's always something to complain about. I mean, overall, Notre Dame is a great place. The campus is, and you heard people say it's like Disneyland for Catholics. That's what it is. And I think Notre Dame does a good job overall of managing the game, of getting people in and out safely. You can't fault them for that. You go to a lot of places and tailgating's out of control. The alcohol is out of control, and I certainly don't have a problem with having a beer or two, but that stuff gets crazy.
And now it's in the stadiums.
Yeah,
I mean, they've crossed that line
right.
of putting it into the stadium. So
it's a tough situation, but Notre Dame has I think tried to be ahead of the curve in managing some of these trends, but it's going to be interesting to see what the future holds, and all the challenges. Now we have new leadership, a new president coming in, new athletic director, and all of our the TV situation and the whole conference affiliation question. All that stuff's up in the air. It's going to be interesting times for Notre Dame. More change is forthcoming.
Absolutely, and that's again
Yeah.
not unique to Notre Dame. I
No.
just think Notre Dame's going to be dealing with a lot more than other schools because they haven't crossed that line of going into the conference.
Right.
Anything else you want to add here before we wrap up your debut here on UND?
Yeah, I even at my age, I only hope maybe this leads to new and better things for me, Jeff. Maybe this exposure here could be, this could be a game changer.
Well, it has for me, the boatload of viewerships that we have here. But
could be a game changer.
I do appreciate your time, as do our many viewers.
Good.
And maybe we'll do this in the next off week here in 3 weeks. We'll figure out something else to talk to you about.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, we got another one coming up. Okay.
Yeah, none in the first 8 weeks, and now 2 of the next 4. So it's crazy. But
I'm looking forward to finishing this season with a bang. I think that
Clemson's still going to be
Clemson's going to be a problem, but there's no team of these remaining 4 that is not beatable.
Yeah, I was upset Clemson lost last night to Miami.
I was too. And
did you see Shipley's fumble?
No, I didn't.
Going into the end zone.
No, I did not
fumbled
see
it.
Oh, no,
I mean, going in. Yeah, it was it was early, but it was still, it was big.
My.
It was big. They just drove the field, and yeah.
I think the team, this bye this weekend was sorely needed by this team. I think they're going to come back refreshed and refocused. I really do.
I hope Pitt's a thorn in the side. I know Pitt's not good, but they're going to play Notre Dame.
They always play tough.
And they got NFL dudes. They've always got someone that's going to be a stud in the NFL.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's not going to be a walk in the park. I mean, it's a challenge.
And with that said, I am going to have a Pitt video hopefully come out with some of the other cards. There's so many Pitt guys. It's unbelievable. It's insane. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, my pleasure. I live to serve.
Yeah. Hey, go Irish. Check out UND. Like, subscribe, and we'll catch you guys later.